You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phone. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas.
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Wednesday, 25th day of March, 2020. So with a word of prayer. Father, you alone are God. You alone can revive and restore this country, this world, and bring us all back together under your sovereign rule. Father, we pray that you give our president, together with his advisors and all of his administration, the wisdom and the grace to follow you, to follow your lead, to follow your word. And as they are an example to the people, may this nation turn to trusting in you for the outcome of this situation. Father, we pray that you would motivate all of our congressmen to strive for integrity and wisdom and the choices and the decisions that they have to make and those that are entrusted as judges and lawmakers. Father, we pray that they also would act in righteousness, impartiality, and integrity as they work for the benefit of all people and to honor your name. Father, we place our nation at your feet and pray that we may once again serve you as your people. And we pray that thy will be done here in the United States of America and in every part of the world. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, guys, welcome back. If you can't see the screen I have up, go to our homepage at CFRN.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered in about 30 seconds. That will give you one-click access to the show each and every day. On the days you're out of the office, away from the desktop, point any internet-connected browser to CFRN.net/live. There you'll find a live real-time simulcast of the show as it unfolds. You can also find us streaming live during the show on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. With that said, let's take a quick peek at a daily chart. There it is. Price. We'll call this the bottom for now. That's the best we can do. 1 day, 2 days, price steadily marching its way up towards the BBC. Price always reverts to the mean. In our case, the mean is always the BBC. It doesn't matter what market, it doesn't matter what time frame. So we're on course to get there. How long will it take? Could be today. Don't think so. Maybe tomorrow. Could we run into some obstacles? Well, we've run into one right there. If we can overcome that little obstacle, hold the pullback, then we've got another obstacle up at 25.42. Hang on. 25.42.75. Right about there. And then nothing in our way. So we'll see how it progresses. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We don't want to put the cart before the horse, because that's always awkward for the cart and the horse. Let me give you the numbers from around the world, and then Michael can give us a recap. I'm going to give Garrett a ring while Michael's doing the recap and see if he wants to pop in here today and share his point of view on things. Right now, here in the U.S., cash markets, the Dow up 746 points. It's 3.5%. NASDAQ up only 49. That's half of 1%. S&P 500 up 43 points. That's 1.75%. And the Russell 2000, the man in the street, positive only by just a little over 4 points. That's about half of 1%. In the commodity basket, crude oil down 4 cents, trading $23.97 last. Gold down $26.30, trading $16.3450 last. In the Asian markets, at the close, Nikkei posted a gain of 1,454 points. That's two back-to-back days of gains, outsized gains for the Nikkei, up 8%. Shanghai up 59. That's a little over 2%. And the Hang Seng up 863, which is a gain of 4% on the session. And in the European markets at the close, the FTSE positive 118 points, 2%. The DAX in the red, down 27, and the CAC posted a gain of 91 points. That's a little over 2%. That gives us a green day in Asia, mixed day in the UK, only because of the DAX. And here at home in the US of A, it's a big green radio Wednesday so far. Michael, if you're ready, you can grab it and take it away.
Okay, I will do that. I am ready.
Well, how was it out there this morning?
Insane.
Was it?
It was. It was. I mean, doing it on a 4-tick range, there are so many opportunities. You know, it's just crazy. And the ES was all over the place. You know, again, I was saying this morning, look at the slingshot. The slingshot's going to give you a heads up. And, well, it did.
Did it?
Over and over and over and over again. We did, I don't know how many did we do? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 trades this morning. But there were probably 100 that were available.
Wow.
So, it's, yeah, it was just crazy. Yeah, we ended, well, what did we end with? Plus $872.50.
Nice. Good job.
So, and most of it was on the ES. The ES has been, you know, has been incredible. I mean, it's actually hard to trade on a 4-tick range.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the slingshot, you know, as I'll show you, it's giving you a heads up, letting you know what's coming.
All right. Well, let me hit mute here, and you can get after it.
Okay, here we go. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, the 25th day of March, 2020. If you've not taken a free trial with us, go to the homepage at CFRN.net. It says free 5-day trial right there. User proprietary indicators free right there. And click on any one of those. There's another one at the top and another one at the bottom. And it's going to bring you to this page. Where all we ask for is your name, your email, your phone number. And you can tell us your biggest trading challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training specifically for you. Hit the send button and you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must hit the confirmation link, okay? You can also go directly to this page, eminitrainingschool.com. Okay. Now, the results. Well, as I said, we're up $872.50 per contract this morning. We only made 1 tick on crude. We only had 1 trade on crude. Made 20 ticks on gold. We only had 1 trade on gold. And we made 53 ticks on the ES, and we had 7 trades on the ES. Today it took 55 minutes and 2 trades to get to $100 a contract, and I took a total of 9 trades. Now, the reason it took 55 minutes is because I was talking more than trading. And, you know, I've been trying to do that. Now that we have so much opportunity, I've been trying to do that. And the markets are jumping around so crazy. I want people who are in there, who are on the trial, to understand what the trade setup is, how to do the trade setup, to see it coming, you know, position ahead of time. But anyway, on the month now, we're up $12,243. That's over 18 days, averaging $680 per day. On the year, we're up $19,196. That's over 54 days, averaging $355 per day. Okay, this is probably going to be our best month ever right now. Let's go here, and I'll get into what we did, and I'll point out some obvious trade setups for you. But the thing to do, look at the slingshot. Slingshot's telling the story, giving you a heads up. Right here, green line pulled away from the cycle. Possible shorting opportunity. Look up here. Do we have an actual shorting opportunity? Not yet. Not yet. And let me go back to. Look at this short during the break. Right here, the slingshot was telling the story. Then you get your down close, bang. Slingshot telling the story. Then you get your down close, bang. Slingshot telling the story, down close. No, it's all coming together, but it's really fast. That's the only thing. You have to be on your game. All right. I mean, you have more opportunities right now to take trade setups, and if you're doing them in demo, that's fine. But there's more opportunity right now to take trade setups than I think there ever has been. And this was our one trade here on gold. We went short right there, picked up 20 ticks. That was our one trade on gold. But I mean, to look at gold, was there a trade setup here? Yes. Nothing in here. Trade setup here. Nothing here. See, now the slingshot's going to be the first thing to react. Okay, well, price is actually going to be the first thing, but look at the slingshot to see if it's saying it's okay to trade. And if it is saying that, then look at price and see if it's saying it's okay to trade. See, like right here, it was saying look at the price right here. See if it's okay to go short. And it said it again here, and here, and here, but it wasn't. Price wasn't saying it's okay to go short. Then right here, it separated bullish, but it's saying it's not okay to go long. This is bullish. Price is still saying it's not okay to go long. Okay. When it starts going sideways like that, look down here for the initial clue, I'll call it, and then look up here to see if you actually have a trade set up. And through all this chop right here, we didn't have a single trade set up. Okay. And that was the day on gold. Now on the euro, we didn't take a single trade today on the euro. But that's not to say that there weren't trade setups. See, right in here was a long, right here was a long, right here was a long. And again, it's a slingshot that's giving you the heads up. Okay. You see, I was looking at it because I drew lines on it. Right there was a short. Right here was a short. Right there was a short. So there was a lot of opportunity. Now, what I'm being told is that trading in the pre-market's not as crazy. Okay. That's what I'm being told. Hang on a second. We've got a whole bunch of crazy people driving around here. So in crude oil today, we only had one trade. So I'll go back to that trade. Oh, looks like we had two trades. No, we had one trade. This one break-even trade right here is all that we had. Not to say that there weren't more opportunities. There was one right here on the short side. There's one here, here. through and look at the rest of this. It was a long here that didn't go anywhere, but would have been a break even if you had taken it. And well, let's see. During the break, shorting opportunity there. A long opportunity here. That was it. Crude didn't have that much opportunity today. Maybe that's why. I only took one trade. What did I say the number was on Crude? The number, I believe I said, was 24.30. I said that this morning, and it hit it here during the break. Got all the way up to 24.32, but 24.30 was the number that I said Crude should get to this week. I said that this morning, and it did. The ES, I had drawn. I'm going to go here, the ES, and go to a larger time frame. I had drawn in this line this morning, and I said, look for the ES to get back up to this level right here. And if it gets through it, it should go to the high of the day. And it's at the high of the day right now. I'll go through the trades that we did on the ES. Okay. 4 tick range. Now, the ES just had too many trades to go through all of them, so I'm just going to go through the ones that we actually did. Okay, and here we go. So, for like the first hour, I wasn't trading all that much. I had, pretty sure I had a break-even trade, then a +8 to get to the goal for the day. Hang on. All right, there was a short here, and a short here. I didn't do any of them. A short there. Along there. Well, it was actually there. Along there. I'm trying to get to where I actually did trade. A short there. A short there. All right. So hold on. Let me get to it. Here we go. That's where we got our goal for the day. My first trade. I think, well, actually it was my second trade. I had a break even on Crude first, but I missed that long right there. But there were other trades coming up in here. Short there, short there. You got to look at the slingshot. It's telling the story. Okay, so we got +8 on the first one, and +12 on the second one. This one. Why does it keep doing that? And +4 on this one. I only got 4 ticks out of this. Can you believe that? I missed that one. Then I got 16 ticks on this one. Put me at +40. And yeah, we'll get to it. There should be 2 more marked up in here. I'm thinking here they are. +9 on this to put me at +49, and +4 on this to put me at +53. And that's not doing all the trades at all. It's doing just 7 of the probably 50 trades that were available. You know, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there. Probably more than 50. There's one there, there, here. Here, here, here. I'm not going to go through them all. It would just take forever to do that. And I think John's probably out there waiting already. Actually, he's not. But anyway, there was a ton of opportunity this morning. All right. And there has been every day for the last 2.5 weeks. Trading's never been, the markets have never been like this for such a period, for such a long period of time. Okay. I mean, you can see we're up 12,243 on the month. And so that doubles what we've done the rest of the year. So that said, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Made 1 tick in crude, 20 ticks in gold, and 53 ticks on the ES. All right, put us at 872.5 on the morning session. That's 1 contract, 2 hours. And today it took 55 minutes and 2 trades to get to goal. At that point, we're up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 9 trades. So on the month now, we're up $12,243. That's over 18 days, averaging $680 per contract per day, per 2-hour day. On the year, we're at 19,196. That's over 54 days, averaging $355 per contract per 2-hour day. Let's go back here. To take the free trial, if you've not taken one yet, you can go directly to eminitrainingschool.com, or you can go to the homepage at CFRN.net, and it says free 5-day trial. Click on that, and you end up back here at eminitrainingschool.com. All we ask for is your name, your email, your phone number. You can tell us your biggest trading challenge, so we can tailor 101 training just for you. Hit the send button, and we'll send you a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link, okay? If you don't click the confirmation link, we don't know that you took the free trial, okay? All right, and there you have it. With that, we can pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Why is it not punching the eye of the day up? Huh. Interesting. But
What's wrong?
it should have just pushed the high of the day up on my chart. You know, the automated high of the day line.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't.
Okay. Well, let's see what it's doing on mine. Well, I don't have that little indicator running, but I can certainly see that we're at the high of the day. Here's a 30-minute view.
Mm-hmm.
Those are last week's zones. So what have we got overhead? The next zone overhead is at 25.75. So I spoke to Garrett, and he's going to pop in for a few minutes.
Yeah, he had issues yesterday, right?
Garrett, I don't know. I didn't speak with him yesterday. 25.76. All right, so that's the next zone overhead. And the zone that we just passed through was 24.32. Slash 33. So, this is the playing field for now. And then the zone below that was way down at 2192. Big zones. $21.92. Garrett asks me if I thought the market had found a bottom, and I said, I don't know. Kind of feels like it. $21.93. Okay. All right. So this is what we've done so far. Now Sunday night was the 22nd. That was here. So we came down into this zone, 92.93. We overshot it a bit. That's where we hit the limit down. And then some brave souls came in and bid the market up. And it got promptly knocked back down right to that same level. Then we got above the weekly zone. We got above the BBC, and then once we get above that, and then we anticipate higher prices, which we certainly got there on that infamous March the 23rd, 8 a.m. candle. The low of that candle was 22.14. The high was 23.86. Off the top of my head, that's about a 160-point 30-minute candle, which is equivalent to 1,600 points in the Dow. We had a trade alert to go long right there. The price had so much momentum, it spiked it a bit, pulled off, came back to the zone, and this really looks like a market trying to make a turn. I mean, we've got a low, we got a higher low, and then another higher low. And so we caught a bullish cross on the 23rd, which would be Monday morning, or Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. We got a bullish cross, we had a leg, and we hit the limits there. Backed off to the BBC, where it held. Holds more often than it doesn't. And then we put in another leg, almost made it to the zone overhead. Pulled back. Another leg. We spiked through the zone. Back to the BBC. Another leg. And after a little bit of a battle here at the zone, we've taken out the swing high, and the distance now to that zone overhead, we've got a swing high at 25.09. So we've got about 66 points overhead before we hit the next weekly zone. This week on Logic 247, we've had a total of 20 alerts issued, 2 never triggered, 18 actionable. We've had 1 stop out. Now this week I've been including some very extended targets because of the big markets that we're trading in. And there was one yesterday, I forget, I think it might have been gold, from the Logic 247 entry to the final trade to target. That would have been enough to pay for a CFRN passport. One trade could have paid for your passport for life. And the special knowledge it required to take advantage of that particular alert was that you had to be willing to get in at the entry and then stay in until the final target. And if you have the training to do that, well, then you too could participate. Last night on the Concierge Trade Alerts, I'll give you a screenshot if you want to grab one, drag it up. Did you already give me the recap?
The recap?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. Today it took 55 minutes and 2 trades to get to $100 per contract.
Yeah, there's no shortage of trade opportunities.
No, not at all.
It's just finding the ones where you can get in and hang on without getting taken out before you get to your target.
I mean, the way the markets are right now, you used to have to sit around. You could sit around all day and not have the highest probability trade opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
But now you sit around for 5 minutes and you probably get, 10 of them.
Yep.
It's just crazy.
Looks like John has arrived. Guys, we'll do a recap of everything. Logic, Concierge. Concierge last night was to be long the S&P at 2460. And we had a 30-point move, 25-point move, and now a 40-point move. So, John, welcome to the show.
Hi there. Thanks for bringing me on. Great to be with everybody. I got a lot to say today, including, not underestimate this virus because, I don't know for sure whether I got it or not, but I got something and managed to knock it out, but I had a bit of a relapse overnight because I think I got reinfected by somebody who, from an outsider who came to give us something and kind of didn't feel too good later on last night. So I'm kind of a bit stressed out today. But anyway, because I definitely don't want this stuff. Once it gets in your lungs, the chances of survival go down a lot. So anyway, there's some fantastic things going on in this market today. Obviously, you've got, this ain't your father's Fed, that's for sure. This is Mnuchin, Jerome Powell Fed, and then the Kashkari Fed, and I think you've got 3 of the best guys who ever were challenged, as we currently are. Mm-hmm. I think Trump has already thanked Powell, deservedly so, and I think the 3 of them should all get knighthoods and whatever else, because I think they've done a fantastic job in rescuing these markets out of an abyss that was pretty dreadful a week ago, or going into Monday even, and they're not letting the market go down, frankly, as evidenced by what's going on today. You could have argued that there was a big sell signal generated from the peak of earlier this morning, and they're just nipping it in the bud, and they've kind of turned it into a buy signal. So, and the fact that these dogs, United and all these, unfortunate companies that got hammered down as badly as they did are coming, have performed so well since is kind of, I'm not so sure we're going to actually see a retest. Frankly, we might see a retest from a higher level, but I'm not sure we're going to go back down to the lows anymore because, yesterday we put out a pretty good call on the VIXs. I think I said that the VIXs are going to go back up. The TVIX was about 235 or 240. When I said that, it hit 420 this morning, got a sell signal of 405, and currently 370. So they're obviously pressuring the VIXs again to sort of support the market. She's part of the team or not.
Germany's had the lowest percentage of deaths versus infections of anyone.
Well, the Germans are pretty good in the health department, and they're pretty innovative when in general, German efficiency. They're a formidable country, formidable people. And they're the bulwark of Europe. Without Germany, Europe would be God knows where to be. So they're the anchor of the European community. Along with France. But anyway, look, we don't know whether this is a worldwide deal or whether it's just the U.S. leading the way out of the abyss for the rest of the world. And whether these other, bazookas are going to come into play And look, everybody's being. It's funny. It's incredible how Trump sets the agenda. The narrative ahead of time, and it's very clever, because the fact that he sort of said he wants this economy back up and track on by Easter is actually a very it was a very optimistic kind of a thing to say, even though he got beaten to death over
Yeah,
it.
I got trashed for it.
Yeah, but it helped the market higher, because people obviously felt that
People need hope.
Exactly, and so it's very, very clever, and in a kind of a crazy way, he might be able to pull it off. I don't know whether he can, and maybe more like Memorial Day or Ascension Day or something, a little bit beyond, or one of these later dates on the calendar might be the day, but you never know.
Well, what people have to understand is, the news is going to get worse, but that doesn't mean the situation is getting worse.
Yeah.
The numbers are going to get worse because, like here in Phoenix, they're starting to pop up with these drive-through testing stations. So, as more people get tested, it doesn't mean more people are infected. It just means that we know how many people are infected. Did you follow what I'm saying? So the numbers, the stuff from the media is going to get worse and worse, and it's really going to seem, I think, like the end of the world, when it's the situation itself, the underlying root cause, the virus. However many people are infected, that's how many are infected. Now, we can bury our head in the sand and not know, or we can know, but I think people reacting and being alarmed by these statistics and these figures, oh my God, it's growing. No, what's growing is our ability to test, calculate, and post results.
Yeah. Well, by the way, I got a different theory about this thing. They're all saying it came out of this lab in Wuhan and all this, or out of the market. But, this is a kind of a swine flu derivative, if you like, just like the swine flu of the 2009, which, remember, infected 60 million people, but it wasn't as severe as this, thank God. So, but remember this thing that happened in China where the pigs, the pigs were being slaughtered, en masse, like two-thirds of the pig population was wiped out. That actually might be the source of this thing in one way or another, because these farmers were throwing the pigs into the rivers. I actually saw a video of them throwing these dead pigs in the rivers, and they probably got in the water supply. And there's a thing, I saw a tweet out yesterday, said that 21 million cell phones have disappeared in China, which would imply 21 million fatalities. And it could be as bad as that, because you've seen the videos and the cremation and everything going on. And, we think there's 2 million infections and about 100,000 deaths, but it could be a whole lot worse. So and on a scale in the United States, if we didn't have these treatments that, have been discovered since, would potentially mean 5 million people could die of this thing, but on the same kind of scale. But, I think as we've said already on this show weeks ago, and even last week, the worst point, it's just like World War II. How come the market bottomed in 1942? It bottomed because that's when they started hitting the Japanese after Pearl Harbor, and people, the smart money figured the war was won, because remember what the Hirohito said, we've awakened a sleeping giant, and
exactly.
The U.S. is a sleeping giant that's awakening to this issue right now, and it's gonna knock it out like quick smart. IBM supercomputer has come up with 72 potential treatments for this thing.
Really?
That is just mind-boggling. That is, so they're obviously going to get their arms around it pretty quick, and before we know it, maybe there's going to be one pill that just gets distributed to the population, and maybe it could potentially indemnify people from being infected, or reduce the symptoms, or control the thing and get them well quickly, because the quicker, the quicker somebody gets treated, the reason why people are dying is because they're not getting treatment. It's coming up on them very, very fast and getting inside their system. And once it gets in, it's really, that's the reason why these people are in hospital. If you can, suppress the symptoms as quickly as possible, your chances of survival are potentially about 100%. But if it gets inside your lungs, I mean, your chance of survival go down to several, to just a few percent. Seriously, that's how. That is the real, analysis of this thing. So
this cry for the ventilators and putting these people on the ventilators, I mean, by the time you need a ventilator, are you saying it's possibly too late?
Johnson, well, look, I think if you're on a ventilator and you're on these medications, and now they've approved the plasma, and the plasma is the antibodies.
How does that work?
Well, it's a very clever idea, and it may be the salvation. Because people who've been cured. Mm-hmm. Have the antibodies in their system, and so I guess they do a transfusion, and the antibodies multiply and will repel the virus.
Wow. Amazing.
And the other thing is, look, the in the thing that I put together, there's a very scary part which shows you just how bad this thing is and what it does to the lungs. And I mean, it just rips your lungs. People can't breathe because their lungs are full of water and stuff, or they just don't function, and they do actually irreparable damage to your lungs after a certain point after passing a certain point. So and that's why these people have been falling over in the street, because they're walking down the street and the symptoms are getting worse and they can't breathe and they just collapse. So and Amy Klobuchar's husband is getting very bad symptoms. There was a video of a fellow on a tube or a train in China, throwing up blood, and her husband is doing the same thing, which is just terrible. Wow. It must be frightening to have something like that happen. So, and I mean, Prince Charles has got it now. And,
yeah, I heard that.
Listen, you think he's been hugging Harry and William? I mean, they all probably got it now. So it's just unbelievable. The way this thing has come out of China and just found its way into every nook and cranny in the universe is just staggering. It's absolutely incredible.
So do you think it's engineered? Do you think it was intentional, or do you think it just happened?
That's the other. Those are the three things: the Wuhan thing, the swine flu, and then the third thing is the actual deep state operation. To take down the world. Who knows?
Hey, Garrett just joined us. Hey, Garrett, welcome.
How you guys doing today?
Good. I think I need to get a little bit closer to the mic.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, that's perfect.
That's much.
Hi, Garrett. How are you?
Hi,
Good
Jim.
Garrett. Glad you're still around.
Yeah, quite the deal.
By the way,
this is going to be interesting.
Do you know Diamandis, Garrett?
I'm sorry. Do I know who?
I think it's Peter Diamandis. Do you know him?
I don't think so. That doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, Google him. He's got he's pretty up on this thing. He's been at the leading edge of it. Very interesting guy.
How do you spell that last name?
Diamandis. He's a little bit like your friend, your partner.
Here we go, Peter Diamandis.
Who I actually have met.
I found him.
Yep, I see it.
Yeah, sounds like a Greek name, huh?
Right.
He is a Greek-American engineer, physician, and entrepreneur, best known for being founder and chairman of the X Prize Foundation, co-founder and executive chairman of Singularity University. Okay, so now what's the story on him, John? What were you saying about him?
No, it might be a different guy. Look, I'll have to check it because this fellow's more of a. He's what's your partner's name? Garrett?
Peter Eliades.
Yeah, Peter. I've met him a long time ago. Probably met you. You and I were probably in the same room at some point in the past.
I'm sure we must from our conversations in the past. We must have been.
Right.
Well, the guy I
And,
found, John, that I've got up on the screen was named by Fortune as one of the world's 50 greatest leaders. Does that sound like
It could
the
be
guy?
him. It could be him. I'll have to check. I'll
Okay.
have to check.
All right.
Because he's very smart. He's got some kind of a newsletter that is, kind of a futurist and giving very, very good advice. So anyway,
I'm gonna put that in his name and then put on the coronavirus. And the coronavirus, we're now entering a critical week in global pandemic. I think it's the right person.
yeah,
He talks about fear versus reality, and it's under his name.
yeah, no, that's the guy.
Exponential implications, good news about it. It looks like he's got a lot of information on it.
Yeah,
So,
I just
John,
found
I
that
think
same.
you got the
I think I just found that same article there, Garrett.
yeah.
Fear versus
Just
reality.
put, Peter Diamandis on the coronavirus, and lots of stuff will pop up. Thanks, John. I'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
On,
So-
this
on
is
the
quite
worst
interesting.
day in China, 108 people died, but on any given day globally, 26,000 people die of cancer, 49,000 people die of heart disease, 4,300 people die of diabetes. Suicide takes an average of over 2,000 lives a day. Mosquitoes take over 2,700 lives a day.
Yeah.
And we the people kill an average of 1,287 fellow people every single day. Interesting.
By the way, if we break down from here and we sell off this afternoon going into tomorrow, I actually think this could be, we could go down some or a lot, depending on how much the Fed steps in again. If I could I just borrow a little bit of time, Garrett, to say something about the gold and silver before we start with you?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Look, and the reason is because it's very, very critical what's going on here. And, one of the things that we've been saying for a long time is that the upside acceleration phase of the metals, the precious metals, would not really get going until platinum gets out of the rut that it's been in for the last 4 years. And
Palladium, too.
right. And so the platinum crashed down, and we were looking for 750 initially, and it went all the way down to 590 or somewhere like that, and has rebounded dramatically, more than $100, almost $150 higher. And I believe, here's the thing. Right now, I think we got a preview of the future yesterday in the silver, going up more than about $1.20 on the day, or 30, and the big rebound in platinum and the massive rebound in palladium that's happened yesterday and today. I think the fact that palladium rallied back to 23.15 from 1300 or so tells you the world's going to recover, because it wouldn't be going up if there wasn't demand for it anticipated. And so here's the thing: if you can put platinum up for a second, Dwayne,
Sure.
and look at the way that gold is there. I think that the gold's telling you it might rally big time later on today. And the beautiful thing about today is the gold is down, silver's up 50 cents, platinum's up $40, and palladium's up $437. And this is just,
Palladium's up $400. Did you say?
it is, yeah. And this is manna from heaven. This is just beautiful, because I believe the ratio has spiked. The gold silver ratio has spiked, and it is coming, in just the same way as a parabola, goes to an extreme. It's going to drive it's going to drive that ratio way, way, way down, maybe to 50 or even 30 before this bull market's over, right? And it's almost like the VIX spiking, the TVIX spiking at 1,000 and helping this market recover, because they broke the fear index, right? So, but look, here's the exciting part. Platinum is generating, if you could put palladium up on a weekly.
Here's palladium.
Can you do palladium weekly now?
There's palladium on a weekly.
Look at that. Now, if you go to a monthly on palladium, I mean, is that the mother of all spike buy signals? I mean, it could push, if we get up another few, another few $100 before the end of the month, Dwayne, this thing could be 3,600 before, it could be going on 4,000.
It's just hard to chase a move like that.
Okay, all right, go put platinum up right now.
That's
okay, we've got a developing buy signal. Look, if we go up another 100, if we close the month over 800, and I think we've got a shot at doing that right now, or even if that turns into a green candle, I'm telling you, I think platinum's going to be 1,800 by the end of next quarter, and that is just fantastic, because if platinum's at 1,800, gold's probably going to be about 2,100 to 2,400. And I can, to anybody who doesn't get the memo here, a 5-year-old could figure this out, in all honesty. The gold has been going up for the last 20 years, more or less in line with the debt. Okay. It's not the same. It's not like the debt's 24 trillion at the moment, almost 24 trillion. And the gold is about $700 behind, $700 to $800 behind, in terms of 2,400 versus 1,700. Okay. Now, what's going to happen in the next few days or next quarter is the deficit's going to go to 30 trillion. Okay. We're going to add 6 trillion in debt to the deficit. Now, on this show a few months ago, we predicted the debt would hit 30 trillion by 2023, which is when we expect the dollar to be down, half the price it is today, and maybe gold 8 times the price it is today. So all of these things are potentially possible, because if the dollar gets cut in half between now and 2023, there's going to be rampant inflation of anywhere from 10 to 20% at some point in the future. And it only took 12% in 1980 to get gold up eightfold. So, if you don't believe gold's going to go up eightfold, you're not getting the memo, because by the time they get this market back on track, it won't be 6 trillion. It'll be like 10 trillion or 20 trillion worldwide. And as I said a long time ago, back in the last century, there was no inflation for all of the second decade of last century, and pretty much the same for this century, except the inflation was hidden. We all know everything's going up, but they suppressed it. But what happened in the third decade, in the 20s, in the early 20s, is inflation started to show up. And I said yesterday, the market got a double hit. We've got a double hit coming. I think this is the medical hit that we're getting right now. Hopefully we recover, and then there's a bigger hit coming in 2023, 24, maybe an inflationary hit. Who knows what it's going to be, but it's going to be something really bad, and it potentially could drive the Dow down to back into below 10,000 or maybe 12,000, and it could drive gold up to either 8,000 or 12,000, and they're going to intersect, yes, as they've done every 50 years. The first time was 35. Second time was 875, and it's entirely logical that the Dow and gold are going to intersect at approximately 10 times the previous price, or 20 times maybe. So that's going to happen. I mean, it's just inevitable, because the Western world, the world is absolutely, we got quadrillions of derivatives right now. We've got 250 trillion or 300 trillion in debt worldwide, and that is going to manifest itself in inflation. So we're going to have, in my view, the Western world, all the Western economies, probably in 22, 23, 24, are going to go. They're going to, what was the Weimar Republic in the 20th century, where, remember, it was like 1919, I think the inflation may have started going up about 10%. 1920 was 100%. 1921, or maybe I'm a year out.
1920 was an inflation peak.
Right. So exactly right. So 1921 was 100%. It was maybe 20 was 100%. 1921 was 1,000%. 22 was 1,000,000%. There you go. 1,000,000%. So, imagine if that happens, I'm not saying it will happen, but look, if we have 20%, 30% inflation going in the next few years, it's going to have a huge impact on a lot of things. So be ready for it, because I think it's the most opportunistic situation. And you actually look, when you can see the future as clearly as we have been able to in many times ahead of time on this show. I was talking to a guy explaining this to him today, and he said, John, he said, you told me to get out of stocks at the top, and I didn't listen to you, and because I was telling him about the VIX and how we recommended the VIX at 30, TVIX at $39, and the UXY at 11, and the VIX went up 26-fold to 1,000, and I even said, we recommended it yesterday, and it's gone up. I mean, who would have thought that it went from 200? I said yesterday, 235 to 400 in one day is not a bad trade.
No.
Agreed. So, and the market's gone up, and yet the VIX has gone up, so it's even better. It's kind of amazing. But the inflation in the future is going to be the biggest story of the next few years. There's no doubt about it. It's coming.
On 15th of November 1923, decisive steps were taken to end the nightmare of hyperinflation in the Weimar Republic. The Reichsbank, the German central bank, stopped monetizing government debt, and a new means of exchange, the Rentenmark, was issued next to the paper mark.
Right. And you know what? Look, the good news is, for the people who are interested in the rest of the decade, the good news is I think that all this stimulus, and the Fed are going to go into bat when this happens, and they're probably going to fix it. And who knows? They might replace the dollar with a digital currency. Who knows? But it's going to reset the whole thing, and we're going to have a roaring 20s from probably 24 through 30, and it's going to be great. So but in the meantime, there's going to be some spectacular trading opportunities for the foreseeable future, like we've never seen before.
Everyone who had debt benefited from hyperinflation because mark-denominated debt became worthless. A 100,000 German mark loan in 1918, a hefty sum, was worth just 0.01% of its initial value by 1923. That would be like taking out a $100,000 loan in 2016 and paying it off with a $1 bill in 2021.
Yeah, and that's probably what's going to happen. That's probably what's going to happen.
Garrett, you got a chart you want to show?
Yeah.
Send it over.
Yeah, it's interesting. If it does happen, it's going to break the long-term human cycle.
The long-term human cycle, which is?
Well, it's the long wave cycle, the cycle that we've kind of been on forever.
The 40-year cycle?
It comprised of, two periods of debt buildup, where the second period it becomes the debt becomes parabolic and insurmountable, and that's kind of where we are right now. So the problem, we're either going to have a really new, in which I'm not discounting, but we're going to have a new reality to what we've had for our entire history, which is this long wave cycle that we've been on. And it's worked the same way, and it's worked the way this time. And part of the problem that we had recently was the repo problem, because there's not sufficient collateral. And now you're taking a debt-ridden society and you're injecting 25% more debt on top of an impossible.
I've got to add the 1.5 trillion to the 6, so it's about 8 trillion now, because they've done another 500 billion in repos already, so it's about 2 trillion. It's about 8 trillion altogether. This thing.
Yeah, so you're talking about 25 to 33% debt added on to what was viewed by a lot of people as an insurmountable amount of debt. and also viewed by the markets as an insurmountable amount of debt because of the problems that were being seen initially in the repo market. And the problem is when you're having people buying your debt, in other words, you don't have willing buyers for two reasons. Number one, you've got to be an idiot to buy, to pay an extreme price for a bond that's going to mature at half that price, that pays you nothing for taking that risk, number one. And number two, you've got a debt-ridden society that really can't buy. So your only buyer out there is the Federal Reserve, and guess what? They're using our money to make their purchases. So you've got a drunken spender using our money that we wouldn't spend ourselves to quote-unquote save us. I'm not intelligent enough to get that. That doesn't work to me. The difference with the Weimar Republic is that they started, well, I mean, not with the Weimar Republic, but that era fell on a time when you didn't have much debt. So the problem is when you're starting with a parabolic amount of debt and then you're going to introduce more, we've never had the opportunity to see whether that works or not. And it seems to basically not work. You know, by and large.
That's a fascinating observation, Garrett. Thanks for that. Yeah.
We've got a coronavirus that was kind of the key point to tick this off on the market. But the reality was, if the underlying strength of the market was there to begin with, it wouldn't have had the effect that it's had. I mean, obviously, if they close the economy down, it's going to have the effect. But short of that, if you really think of this, by the way, there was, you know, John, you were mentioning the people walking and then just falling in mid-stride. And I saw that too. I saw what, maybe, I don't know if it's the same thing, but I've certainly seen that going back a few weeks. And the problem that I see with that is that it doesn't make sense, number one. And I did see something that tied this virus, again, you know, we get into the conspiracy thing, but and all the people on TV are brainwashing us for the last 70 years that, oh gosh, you know, conspiracy people where, you know, they go to bed at night with pyramids over their head and you know, tinfoil hats on. That's great, but it's not really true. And the bottom line is that if you're a historian, frankly, what they call conspiracy theory is there all the time throughout the cycle, and particularly at tops. So once again, it's a brainwashing attempt to teach us that reality isn't reality, and what they teach us is reality. Mm-hmm. Anyway, with that type of an influx of thinking and removing the conspiracy part of this, I saw a very interesting video that connected the virus and the 5G technology, which is now certainly in Wuhan and now across the globe. And the fact that should they want to do it, you know, they apparently can do something through 5Gs that elevated the effects and so forth in areas that were infected. Now, I can't speak on that at all. It's not my area. But the interesting thing is this: when you see people walking, and then all of a sudden they're laying on the ground and throwing up blood. I mean, and we're talking not minutes later, but seconds later. I said something's going on, because my feeling is when you look at past flus, they don't hit you. They can hit you fast. There's no question about that. You can feel fine in the morning and very sick in the evening. I've experienced that myself with the flu. So, but what you don't have in any other prior flu, bird flu, swine flu, H1N1, I don't care, whatever it is, you know, common everyday variety flu, you're not falling down in mid-stride. What happens is that it may come on quickly, you may start to feel badly, But the bottom line is, it's not happening in mid-stride. You start to feel bad, so you sit down. And if you feel worse, then you lay down. And that's the way, and you don't go out of your house. And if you're out and you start to feel bad, you're making your way home in a hurry. But you're not falling down in mid-stride. That's something that now that we've been dumbed down sufficiently over 50 to 70 years, we don't see. We've stopped thinking. You don't fall down in mid-stride. Something, in my view, very sinister is causing that to happen. You don't just have your lungs don't just stop working right away. You start getting sick. It starts to affect, I mean, in a normal circumstance.
So what do you think it might be?
I don't even want to comment, but
I mean, so that was a question I asked John earlier. Does this whole thing,
I don't want to make
I don't want to
make comments on that.
No, I'm just asking, do you think it's engineered, or is this just nature?
I don't think this is an organic virus, number one.
Right.
I think it's something that some people have known about for a long time and planned the timing of it and so forth. And I realize very quickly that whatever large percentage of your audience is going to say, oh gosh, this guy's really nuts, and that's great. But I've heard that way too many times. I've heard that when I've called market tops and done things in gold too. So I'm not bothered by that statement. The proper statement that I would make if somebody else, whenever anybody says something that I'm not aware of, is, gosh, I don't know. I haven't really looked into that, so I'm not the person to talk to on that. And I've said that. I've used those same words on this show on a lot of things, and this is one of them, by the way. But this whole process that's gone on is all part. You've got a war going on right now. If you want to talk biblically, it's the battle between good and evil. If you want to talk politically, it's the battle between globalists and non-globalists. And if you want to talk historically, it's the battle between, the desire for power. Period.
Right.
No matter who does it, no matter who's seeking that power. I mean, we're all humans, and to some degree, we all want power, whether it's in our household or our industry or in our company or
our relationship
or in the room that we're in,
Right.
So it's nothing foreign to the human being, but there are people that have that gene or whatever it is to a far greater degree. That are there's good people that have it, and there are very bad and sinister people that have had it. And this country, anybody who believes that this country is being controlled and other countries by who they think it's being controlled by, have spent way too much time with CNN and MSNBC and maybe even Fox for that matter. That's history will tell you that something completely different is going on. So I'm personally of the opinion, with what I've looked at, that this is not at all an organic evolution of a disease. I think it's there for a reason. And it's interesting that these things kind of fall at a time when, I mean, like, nobody bothered to consider if you go back to 9/11, nobody bothered to consider what was happening before then. Ron Paul was in the midst of putting the Federal Reserve in a very uncomfortable position because he pointed out that they, quote unquote, misplaced $2 trillion. How do you misplace $2 trillion? $1 trillion was the entire production of goods and services in the United States, which was the first country to break that ceiling in history. And at that time, it took the next 11 or 12 companies' combined GDP to match our own, which was $1 trillion. And now somehow the Fed lost 2 of those numbers, and they couldn't find it in 2001. And ironically, at the same time, the Pentagon had lost a similar amount of money, and I can't remember who was looking into that, Rumsfeld or somebody. Now, of course, he's, I believe, on the other side of the coin. But anyway, both of those things happened, and somehow magically, planes ran into the Twin Towers and also into the Pentagon on the same day, right at the time when that problem was becoming, paramount. And then later you had the flood where somebody left the vault door open. What was that flood in New York where that happened? Remember that huge, that huge catastrophic storm that they had in New York, and somebody had left the vault door open. Now, who in the world leaves the vault door open? That never happens. And all the instruments, the financial instruments in there flooded out. Well, wasn't it interesting that the next day, a very large amount of them came due, and somehow they turned to mush because somebody opened the, so I mean, if people want to believe that that's coincidence, my gosh, it's a free country. God bless you. And you know what? Those people, ignorance is bliss. They don't have to worry about these things. They go out and walk in the park and have a good time and don't have these things on their mind. They're probably living, a wise life. So I'm not knocking it. I'm probably jealous. Sadly, I've kind of chosen to try to be informed in those areas, and this is the kind of stuff that comes up, and it's real stuff. I mean, it's right there. So these things happen. It's very interesting. I mean, even the thing we're talking about, the Wuhan virus, whatever we want to call it, the Wu flu. It was mentioned, as we mentioned last time.
As I heard it called the other day, Kung flu. Wow.
Called what?
Kung flu.
Kung flu.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was cute. But
that's
anyway.
pretty good.
Yeah.
They should make a series, right?
Right.
But anyway, though, it's pretty amazing that they write a book in 1981, as we talked about, and they mention that. And that kind of stuff, I've seen that type of imprint happen throughout with the people that do this. So it's not a surprise, but to believe that that's coincidence. Coincidence, I think, is defined far different than that. Coincidence isn't about exact things with the same name that happen in the same place. That's a lot more than coincidence. Coincidence is rare similarities that might occur. But anyway, what I was going to show you, and I won't take up too much time.
Just while we're on the subject, Garrett.
What's that, John? I'm sorry.
Just while we're on the subject of things kind of going on behind the scenes that are controlled by who knows, maybe even the UN or somebody. You want to listen to Eric Prince's interview with Candace
Owens?
Yeah. Incredible interview. This guy, when the pirates were, all that piracy stuff was going on?
Somalia?
Yeah. I think the one operation to rescue that captain that they made the movie out of, Eric Prince went in there and basically, through asymmetrical kind of approach, basically wiped out the piracy in a matter of years, and you've never heard anything about it since, right? And he's the guy who did it. And you want to hear what he says about some other things going on in the world. Jesus. In fact, I think there's another interview with him right about 2016.
I found that was on Prager University interview. Is that right, John?
Well, it's all about the reason why the FBI came out and recharged Hillary, or right before the election, was because I think, and it's still going on today. The laptop, the Wiener laptop, has everything on it, the whole thing, right? And when the NYPD went in and got him, somebody checked it out and was like blown away with all the stuff in there, and basically said, if you don't reopen this case, we're going to go public with this and blow the whole thing sky high. And basically, that's probably a good reason why Trump's the president today. So, but it's a fascinating expose of what was really going on behind the scenes. And I know this,
John,
and all this entire thing, this entire, I mean, look, do you know what's been going on the last few days? I mean, I said it, how long ago did I say this on the show? That they got the people they indicted out of Russia, out of the phone book, or out of the, some military thing. They just picked names and they indicted all these people to make it look like they could have 30 indictments instead of just a few. And I actually believe, I wouldn't be surprised if the DOJ completely annuls this entire Mueller thing. It could actually happen. They could just wipe it off the face of the earth and free everybody involved, because the whole thing was the most unbelievable. We've said it from day one, Dwayne. This is the biggest story, is this entire conspiracy against Trump that's been going on for 4 or 5 years. It's just unbelievable.
And all the lives that were shattered and destroyed as collateral damage.
Yeah. This when you have dumbed down the populace enough to where they embrace a double standard, you're in trouble. Because back when I was, John, I think when you and I were growing up, and you too, Dwayne, I think we grew up with a basic understanding of right and wrong. And right and wrong wasn't Republican or Democrat. It was just right and wrong. Mm-hmm. And when you saw wrong, you wanted to eliminate it because it was wrong. When you saw it if you saw it in the other party, if you were, if it was the Republicans, if you saw it in the Republicans and they were wrong, well, then you wanted that person to be removed from office and imprisoned, depending upon what the thing was. But if you saw it in your own party, the well-thinking mind not only wants to get that person removed and prosecuted, but they want to do it even more so because that's the party that's representing you. If they're representing you, they're saying, gee, this guy's a sleazebag, and that makes the rest of us who believe in him a sleazebag, so you want to get rid of him. But you see what you have now is you have exactly the opposite. We have a situation where, let's name names and use people. We've got a situation where if Trump does something, first of all, in most cases, we found that he doesn't do it. It's just that MSNBC and CNN and those stations report that he does, and then later on we find that he didn't even do it on many things. So first of all, they report those things. They never report on Hillary and she erased this, she did it. No, they don't report on FISA. They don't report that stuff is not mentioned on those channels. If you want to see that, you've got to watch Fox. So most of these people aren't even aware of it. I'm in conversations of things that are just known knowledge people aren't even aware of. I said, what do you think about the Democrats and particularly the Hillary Clinton paying for this FISA thing? And the thing's a complete farce, and it's there. And by the way, if you want, and they're pinning all this Republican thing on Russia and our collusion with Russia. And I'm going, well, pardon me, but you're not aware of the FISA document. You're not aware of that conversation with Obama and Medvedev when Obama's microphone was on. That's not collusion. You're not aware of Hillary selling 20% of our strategic uranium reserves. That's not, and no, the conversation doesn't even go there. It goes over to Trump, who hasn't done any of it at all. And all this other stuff is unbeknownst to these other people. And even if it was known, here's the inherent problem. It's very bad when Trump does it. In fact, we'll talk about him for days on end, weeks on end, months on end, and now years on end on things that he didn't even do. But on things that we've done, it's actually okay, and we don't even want to talk about that. Now you've got a big problem because you've got a population that's stupid, number one. And stupid is as stupid does. I don't care if you got a 200 IQ. If you fall for this, you're not using that IQ, and you might as well be stupid. I mean, this is the kind of thing that takes greatness and eliminates it. It's the kind of thing that eliminated the Roman Empire. If you can't tell right from wrong, and if you're that easily influenced, and you have no information, but you have a strong opinion, and you get angry about your opinion if somebody else isn't listening to it when you're completely wrong and your information is totally unfounded, you and the rest of us have a big problem. And that's where this country is right now. I've said it 100 times. We have these two periods of debt buildup that last about 40 years each. One starts from no debt and gets to a point where debt's, pretty insurmountable. And then the second period goes into a parabolic move. That's about an 80-year period. You have three, and those are depression cycles. They're followed by depressions. Three of those are a revolutionary cycle. They're about 240 years. And we're right in that now. And the most important, hang on just a sec. Hi, Dan. I'm right in the middle of an interview. Got to call you back. Excuse me. So that's the problem. You've got a depression cycle coming up. You've got a revolution cycle coming up. And this is what I was talking about, John. We do have that depression cycle coming up. And now, because there's three of them, we have a revolution cycle. And when you see arguably the most popular candidate, not only in the current election, but in the last election, might have been Bernie Sanders. Now, he was more popular than Hillary, so she had to remove him. And now, who knows if he's going to be more popular than Trump or not? Maybe not. But the fact that his name even comes up, he's a /socialist/communist. And this is somehow making sense to a large percentage of our population. Interestingly, if you just take a picture of Trump supporters and then you take a look at the Hillary supporters, it's visible if you even look at it. You can actually see it. You've got these glassed over looking millennials that have never had a job and feel that the world owes them something, and Bernie's telling them that, which is just a horrible thing, because Bernie's a capitalist. I don't care what he'll tell you that he is. Bernie's a big time capitalist. He's got 4 homes. I think he drives a number of cars, one of which is supposedly the Audi R8 sports car, I believe. So this guy's a capitalist, big time. Now, he's a socialist in the fact that he doesn't want to go to work. He never had a job till he was 53 years old, and he realizes he can still not work by being a politician, raise a bunch of money in the campaign. If he loses the campaign, he keeps the money. He's not going to give it back, and it's working for him. And he just doesn't want the rest of us to be able to do what he does.
Right.
So,
Actually,
this is a bad joke.
This is exactly what Eric Prince is. He says the worst enemy of the U.S. is from within us. It's basically this going on right now. What's going on right now with this Bernie stuff?
People have to start to see this, and the sad thing is, first of all, people. I talk to people who are, my term is quote unquote otherwise intelligent. In other words, if you move away from this and find them in their jobs and you talk about anything other than politics, they're intelligent and capable and likable people. And lots of them are my friends. But if I engage in this kind of a conversation, I get nowhere. And the interesting thing is, they're going to, and what I've done to turn it around on them, the only successful thing I've found to turn this around on these people is the following. And anybody who's had these conversations and been frustrated might want to utilize this tactic. It doesn't change things, but it stops them right in their tracks. If I'm talking to somebody, I have a friend who's kind of an entrepreneur, and his wife is an executive for a health company. And I was mentioning, I said, if our conversation happened to be about your company and their health industry, and you're an internal executive, I said, let's say you and I were talking about that. And all of a sudden, I got an angry and strong opinion about the internal workings of your corporation. I started talking about that and saying, well, I completely disagree with you. And you're going from your side, well, hey, I'm in those meetings. I'm in those discussions. You're not. How how can you even, I said, wouldn't you say, I said, let's not mix words here. I said, if I were to do that and engage in that conversation with you, let's call a spade a spade. I'm an idiot. I'm a complete idiot to do that, right? And she went, well, yes. And I said, well, thank you. I said, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm an idiot to do that. I said, now, let's revisit where we were. We were talking about politics, and politics isn't I'm a Republican, you're a Democrat, and I'm voting for this guy and you're voting for that guy. That's not politics. Politics is a lot more than that. I said, I heard the words, the New World Order, uttered by Henry Kissinger in 1972. For some reason, it went off like big lights and bells and whistles in my head. Can't begin to tell you why. I have no idea. But I started studying it from that point. Now, that adds up to 48 years. Now, I don't care what you study, but if you study it sincerely with a great deal of effort for 48 years, you're going to find out something. I mean, the one thing I found out is I found out a whole bunch of stuff that I can just immediately throw out because I know it's not true and improper and probably written by the guys who are trying to brainwash us in the first place. So I can now see that stuff and figure that out. What I have found after I've thrown out that stuff is that I'm left with a lot of good information. I've got 48 years of that information. And that's what real politics is, because they're controlling politics. And if you don't want to take my word for it, why don't you play the warning of President Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1961, and then play the one that happened within 2 months later by John F. Kennedy. If you don't like to listen to the Republican, then listen to the Democrat. Listen to those two warnings, and then read Aldous Huxley's comments later on, and then I can go back in time to people before that gave us the same warnings going way back. So there is a very insidious criminal element that's been messing with our government for a long time. If you want to listen to something interesting, Google, I think it's Hillary Clinton and the CFR, Hillary Clinton's comments at the CFR. It's about 1 minute. CFR is Council on Foreign Relations.
Hillary Clinton.
Google that. It's about 1 minute. And she says in there very clearly, after they moved the offices of the CFR to a place that was closer to where her office was, she says, I now only have to, go a lesser amount of travel for my marching orders. In other words, where she gets told what to do. And that's at the Council on Foreign Relations. And that, by the way, is where the two great enemies, I always, make a joke about this. Hillary Clinton and who is the guy who was vice president with George Bush?
The guy that invented the internet? No.
No. That's Gore. That's
Quayle.
Vice President Clinton. Not Quayle, not Dan Quayle, but Bush Jr.
Cheney.
Dick Cheney.
Right.
Yeah, Dick Cheney. I make the joke.
Interestingly, how forgettable these folks become.
Yeah, they're not forgettable. I just couldn't think of his name. But Dick Cheney was a very powerful Republican figure, and Hillary Clinton, of course, in the dinner. And I kind of made the joke is that at the Council on Foreign Relations dinners, that's where you find Dick Cheney and Hillary Clinton dancing together, tripping the light fantastic, and doing high fives on how we have screwed America again. Anyway, that for most people, they watch the TV. That people say, I'm informed. I'm really informed because after dinner every night I sit down and watch TV. I watch the news for half an hour, and I go, no, you're not informed. You're probably brainwashed. I said if you want to be uninformed and informed in the wrong direction and become what history terms, not me, I wouldn't say it, but what history terms the true useful idiots. The useful idiots are those people that are, number one, brainwashed by the media and the forces that are there to perform that service for us in order to allow the reigning people in power to remain in power. And I don't mean Trump or Clinton or anybody else. I mean the string pullers. The people behind the
Thank you
scenes
very
are truly that have been governing us for a long, long time. You need the youthful idiots to be there. Now, you go back in the 60s when everybody was conservative and people believed in God and America and apple pie and people were patriotic. It's much, much harder to do that. Although they started with their control way back with the Federal Reserve and women getting the right to vote and a bunch of other things. I mean, these people are very, very smart. But anyway, I'll get off that bandwagon. I just think that we've got this coronavirus, and wouldn't it be interesting to see what would happen if we just I'm not suggesting anybody do this. I suggest we follow what they tell us to do.
Here. Yeah, I mean, what is so different? But before we move on, listen to this for just a second.
Thank you very much, Richard, and I am delighted to be here in these new headquarters. I have been often to, I guess, the mothership in New York City, but it's good to have an outpost of the council right here down the street from the State Department. We get a lot of advice from the council, so this will mean I won't have this far to go to be told what we should be doing and how we should think about the future. I mean,
So there she is saying, yes, I get my marching orders, from the CFR. Yeah. Was she referring to,
And then the question is, who's behind that mothership? That's what we need to think about.
Yeah.
And
Dwayne,
I don't want to get into that. That information is readily available. There are things on the internet from good sources. You know what they do? You know what disinformation is? They find out what people are looking at that might expose them, and they come out and put out something similar. They put some truth in it to make it sound good, so that you believe it, and then they put a bunch of falsehoods in it, and then later on they expose it as disinformation, and they say, "Oh, look, that was really false," And so you've got to be very, very careful. But that's what 48 years of studying this stuff will allow you to do. You're able to kind of discern and work your way through that. The person that comes on it for the first time and decides to start that trip today has to go through that process of finding out what's right and what's wrong, and it's not an easy process.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, John?
Dwayne, remember you talked about yesterday going up to that level on the S&P. I think there's a kind of a melt up going on here. It's a little bit like the tax deal back in 2017, encapsulated into what took months of anticipation of that tax bill and the big rally, and this is just encapsulated into a few days. But we started anticipating this deal, right? The passage of the $2 trillion. Obviously, the market likes it, and I think the fact that it's either that's basically agreed to by all.
So, guys, right, we're marching right up to that weekly trading.
The market is actually potentially melting up now.
Yep.
And I think the shorts, this could be the mother of all short squeezes, like we've never seen before. And so I wouldn't rule anything out now. They could ramp this thing up right into the end of the month and potentially create a big monthly buy signal under this market.
Garrett, can you see my chart, Garrett?
Yes.
I mean, look at this thing. I mean, that's our next highest weekly trading zone. And then after that, we've only got one more for the whole week, and that's way up at
Well,
28.59.
remember, it was funny. I was talking about, running this market up into the end of the month, and then maybe, another big turn and test in early April was kind of my original thing. And lo and behold, can you see my chart?
No, I just pulled it back to take a look at mine, but I can push it back to you. You still got
Yeah,
a
I'll
chart to
show you what I was gonna. I'll show you just the only thing I was gonna share with
Yeah,
you.
go ahead.
I mean, we got off on that other thing as I wanted to talk about with John.
All right, I can see your chart now.
This is the S&P from the top at 33.93 down to the lower early on Monday. It's a 30.6% decline. Obviously a wave 1, a wave 2. It looks like a wave 3 and a wave 4, but who knows? Maybe it's 4 or 5, and now we're on wave 1 here. But here's one of the things that I look for to determine when you're completing a bottom. And back here on March 12th on this low, in other words, you closed here and opened here and then fell and closed on or near the low. You had 2,377 new lows. And single digit number of new highs probably. You rallied up the next day. Typically when you have that kind of a day, you're going to rally the next day. You rallied the next day and closed much higher, but did you stay there? No, you opened way down here, almost at the low, and then you broke it and went lower. And you came down here and you had 2,235, so that's 142 less or whatever it is on March 18th, but still a huge number of new lows and probably a single digit number of new highs. So maybe I think that had a double digit there, but not very many, like 20 new highs or something like that. This one over here was 1 new high and 99 new lows. But look what you had happen. That's not quite your low close, but it's 1 day before it. You've really reversed the number of new lows here. All of a sudden you're getting a divergence right here. And then the next day you go down and finish it off. And now you've got to turn. And to me, that's what makes this very possibly a meaningful low. These two numbers right here. These are capitulation type of numbers, capitulation here, capitulation here. Not as many. And then all of a sudden, then you wait for that point where you see this kind of a reversal, and you've got this
Garrett, it's actually a little bit more extreme than that. You see that first reversal off the low where it says minus 30.6 just below it? See that? See that first reversal?
This one.
Down to 2,900, yeah. That day, I believe, was the day we hit minus 3,400 or 3,500 on the advanced decline. There's never been a number below, I've never seen a number below 3,000 before. So what that told you was it was a bit overdone. It was going to be a rally, but by no means was the low already in. But at each successive low, in the same way as your numbers have borne out, the declines have been less. So the second time was like 2,800, 2,900. Third time was about 2,400. And then this reversal yesterday, that up day yesterday, jumped from minus 1,800 to plus 2,500, and we're 2,500 today as well. So that's really the story. And the reason why those new lows shrank dramatically was the United Airlines and all those hardest hit stocks bottomed first, which is kind of remarkable, actually, and not necessarily what one would have expected, but it was a sure sign that the bottom was close. And interestingly enough, there was a huge buy signal generated on Monday. As we came up towards the noon hour, the SQQQ, which is the tech version of the TVIX or the UVXY, did not make a higher high, and that was really the key buy signal. You know, the time that in fact, even though the tech kind of had this final sell-off on Friday and created the bottom on Monday, that the fact that the tech only really had one bad down day, and the only day was really Apple, because most of the other tech stocks closed well off their lows. If you look at Adobe today, it's probably looking pretty good. If you look at Docu and Amazon and some of these other companies, there is no bear market in these stocks. So that's incredibly encouraging. And as I said, what was the feature of the bottom on Monday was Microsoft was up and Apple was up. The bellwether stocks were already turning to the upside as the market turned. So it was a classic bottom, because for these bottoms to be made, you always have to have a pillar of strength somewhere that people can take confidence in. In previous lows where we've had these shakeouts, very often you might have some pharmaceutical stock that's up like $40 or $50 and everything else is crashing, and you're looking at this stock and you're saying, how come this stock's holding up so well at $40 or $50, or Tesla, for example, or something else, and then next thing you know, the market says I'm going with Tesla, and it turns. So that's really, and Tesla was a feature of the bottom too. It turned. Yeah, they had an upgrade on Tesla on Monday. That's probably what turned the market. The upgrade on Tesla. And sometimes you get a takeover. Takeover very often makes a bottom too. If you get a big takeover. So.
Well, if there's going to be any acquisitions, now would be the time. I mean, there's a lot of...
Yeah, and then you had Satya Nadella on yesterday talking about Microsoft and the team, well, they were working. And so, it was like a perfect scenario, really, for Microsoft to rebound as well as it did. So.
All right.
Well, that's, I'm going to have to watch that Eric Prince interview. That sounds like, it's going to be very interesting, if there is a break in our cycle. And I think if hopefully there's a whole lot of people like him behind the scenes that do know what's going on, and they've amassed the information, and they come out and expose this and turn this over, because as they say, all that's needed for evil to succeed is for good men to do nothing. And it's interesting, when you look out there, you can see all the dirty guys on both sides, but it's very hard to determine which guy really is a good guy. It's really hard. It's easy to come up with who you think
the white hat,
might be
Derek,
that.
just look for the white hat. That's how you do it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's hard to find who wears the real white hat, because in the past, you're thinking, well, gee, it's the Clintons on the one side, or it's the Bushes on the other, and you go, no, they're both on the same side, and it's not our side. So, and then, oh gosh, here comes Obama, and it's like, really, are you serious? People are just fooled, and you even wonder, with those that clearly, I'm always in favor of the person who is speaking more in terms of the republic as opposed to the democracy. A few people know the difference, and the person who's more aligned with the Constitution than moving away from it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting a guy that's a true white hat, because these guys are smart enough to know that there's an ebb and flow, and they support and they support both. So it's going to be real interesting to, I think in the ultimate answer on this, we're all just players on the stage, and most of us are unknowing players. Yeah.
I think Tim just said it well. Democrats and Republicans, two heads of the same snake.
Yeah, yeah, and both, oddly enough, as far as the good people out there wanting the best and trying to get it in a different way. And I get back to the old comment: aren't we all like a bunch of ants on a log going down the Mississippi River, all arguing who's steering?
Yeah, right.
We're going. Nobody's steering. We're on this path, and we're just going along it, and
We have no choice.
not necessarily aware. But anyway, hey, it's always great to visit with you guys. Thank you so much for your time and so forth. And
Thank you.
good
It's always a pleasure.
Good to
Yeah,
good
great.
to
Great
catch
to talk
up.
to you. Thanks, Scarlett. So stay safe. Listen, Dwayne, just a quick observation before I sign off.
Okay.
We just actually made a double top against last night's high. I kind of had a feeling we were going to go up and test that high, but
what market, John?
sorry, on the Nasdaq,
Okay.
and then
Okay. Yep.
yeah,
you're right.
So if we continue higher above that later on today, I think that continues the uptrend. But if it turns out that it is a double top, then maybe we will get a pullback after all. So we'll have to see. But thanks very much for the invite, and everybody have a great afternoon, and I hope everybody's defending themselves against this horrible thing. So,
Amen. Thanks a lot, John. Take care of yourself.
You too. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye. Now, guys, speaking of the NQ, we had a weekly trading zone at 73.91/92. I'll just put the 2 in there for now. So the zone 73.91/73.92, and look what price did as it came up through there. It pulls back to the weekly trading zone and the BBC to get another leg. Pull back to the weekly trading zone, another leg, another pullback to the weekly trading zone, which leads us to where we are challenging last night's high. Now the next zone overhead is at 79.15. Just as at the beginning of the show, I put in the next zone overhead on the S&P, and I think I remember saying, I don't think we'll see it in today's session, maybe tomorrow, but hey, embrace all possibilities. Now, this little rectangle that I drew here, that was simply based on this. Fibonacci extension tool from the low up to the swing high, and then that retracement low, and what we have is a 50% price extension of that leg. Now, look how long it took to get from the low to that swing high. But then after the retracement, this thing went almost, parabolic. We got 50% of that move in just a matter of, hours. These are 30-minute candles. So we're at the 50% Fibonacci price extension. Got a weekly trading zone right overhead. And then the 62% extension is just above that. Now, important prices, important areas are almost always tested. And so, on the S&P, the Concierge Trade Alert was to be long 2460. First move doled out 37 points. The second trigger, the market made 26 points available. And on this third trigger, well, the high so far, 25.60.75. It's pretty easy to figure. That's a 100-point move. Since the show started, we've watched the S&P run up by roughly 50 points, which is equivalent to 500 Dow points. Okay. Now, all the way up, since we got the bullish cross Monday night, every pullback to the BBC has given us another leg to the upside. This one, we got a little bit of an overshoot here. Last night, in the Telegram channel, we talked about the S&P needing to stay above this level right here. This pullback to the BBC with the doji there, that as long as price stays above that, and we were heading into the London Open when I posted it, and we've done that. We got below, we tested this swing low right here. The swing low here was 23.86. Swing low here was 23.87. So 1 point difference. Taking out this swing high was important, just as taking out this swing high will be important. Now the question is do we do that now, or are we due for another pullback to the BBC? We can use our 5-minute chart. Let me point this out again while I'm thinking about it. We talked the other day about crude. And no, I didn't take this trade. I'm not trying to intimate that I did. However, there was a bearish cross on the daily chart of crude, January 15th. Gave us a leg, a retracement, little doji right there sitting above the BBC. And this is a $37,000 per contract drop. Now, as we talked earlier about the S&P, it's true with all markets. Price always reverts to the mean. And in our case, the mean is the BBC. Bull-bear cross. It's real simple. When price is above it, we continue to look for higher prices. And once price gets below it, we continue to look for lower prices until when? Until price gets back above it. However, as we can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is what a market looks like. It's one variation of what a market looks like when it is putting in a bottom. So, you know, when it comes to gravity, what goes up must come down. The markets, with the exception of individual stocks, because they can go to zero and stay there. But when you're talking the indices, you're talking metals, you're talking energy, what goes down eventually comes back up. So here's the first window of opportunity. Now again, this is on a daily chart. Second window of opportunity. Third window of opportunity, which at that point takes us to the BBC, where the market will have to make a decision once we get there. The highest probability thing to happen is a leg to the downside. Does that mean we have to go back to test lows? No, but we could. If we do, then we'll get a shot at these areas on the way back up. A strong momentum move in crude might mean that this doesn't have to be 3 individual opportunities, but a strong move that comes out of somewhere for whatever reason, it could be done in one fell swoop. Now from where we sit now at 24.37 up to we'll call it 33.37, 24 to 33. That's a $9 move, a $1 move in crude, has a value of $1,000 per contract traded. So from where we sit now to the BBC, whether it takes 1 day or 10 days to get there, it's a $9,000 per contract move. So if you think that this little double bottom here did the trick, if you think price is now on that path or trajectory back to the BBC, of course you will have to be able to, have an account size that allows you to hold overnight. And this isn't a recommendation to buy or sell anything, I'm just pointing it out. If that's the low and we're now headed for the BBC, a long position requires that your stop be right below that low. I mean, if you have the wherewithal to be more aggressive with your stop, more generous with your stop, you can certainly do that. But that's big money, okay? We'll watch it, we'll track it. There's no doubt price and the BBC will meet up, whether it's up here or if this market were to continue to just do the sideways waddle. They could meet up there. Price goes sideways, the BBC will drop. The two shall meet. Okay, so we looked at the S&P. We may get that pullback right here. As we pull into blue and climbing, that very well may act as a level of support, which could send price right back up. On the Dow, last night, the alert for the Dow was to be long 20850. Which was right about here. So we had 1, 2, 3 opportunities to take advantage of that, just like the S&P. On the Russell, the number was 1109. We've seen 1126, 1125, 1145. And again, the number was 1109. The NQ, the number was 7595. Right here, 7595. 7595 took us to 7750. Then 7664. And then back to 7761. Big money markets, big risk markets. 73.92 at his current weekly trading zone. It held on this test and it held on this test, and that is the next zone overhead. On crude, 2430/35. That's a last week zone. $24 80/85. Once, twice, 3 times. last night's alert on crude. So you're being short 23.55 right here. That took us down to 23 bucks. A couple opportunities. The long side for crude is up at 25.05. And we hit 25.24 there. Good word for the day. Psalm 139:16 says, "You saw me before I was born." It's how we see ourselves that determines the kind of relationships we establish. Many of us have a low sense of self-esteem. We think of everyone else as being more important than ourselves and think meeting their needs is more important than meeting our own needs. We compare ourselves and allow others to determine who we are and become dependent on their approval to prop up our identity. But it's a slap in the face to God to look at another person and say, "I wish I were like them." Nobody can replace you. God made you for his own purpose, that you might reflect a unique aspect of his glory. As believers in Christ, we've been given a new identity as children of God. We weren't created to live dependently on any other person. Rather, God is restoring us to the image of his Son and making us whole. 2 Corinthians 3:18. In him, we don't ever need to be afraid to be who we really are. It's time to develop a true opinion of yourself based on the truth that God made you exactly, precisely, intricately, wondrously, and uniquely you. A one-of-a-kind creation for which there is no comparison. The psalmist wrote in Psalm 139:16, "You saw me before I was born and scheduled each day of my life before I began to breathe. Every day was recorded in your book. How precious it is, Lord, to realize that you are thinking about me constantly." That's our good word for the day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with his mercy and with his grace. I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.